Hey, good day everyone. This is Professor York again, and one of the things I wanted to follow up from yesterday's class was to talk about a concept called the marketing funnel. And this is to help you be more strategic with your clients. You'll also find that this is useful because you'll see how some of the promotional tactics and activities actually, there's a rationale for how these things fit in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of driving customer behavior. So what is the marketing funnel? You'll see it in either expressed as one of two ways, but AIDA, which is really awareness, interest, desire, action, is the core piece. You'll see it expressed in different ways as well, and I'll cover that with a two-stemmed funnel a little bit later in this mini lecture. But I want you to be aware of this because your marketing activities tie into each of these core pieces. And this first piece is what we call the get piece. How do we get a customer into a relationship with your brand as well as with your company? If we take a closer look, what we're trying to do is that you could break it into two pieces, a role that marketing takes and then a role that sales takes. And what marketing does, as you see in the top part of the funnel, is through its activities is to create customer awareness, brand consideration, and brand preference. So that's where you get this whole concept of branding. So it becomes top of mind. A good example of this is what a lot of car dealerships do and a lot of auto manufacturers do with the heavy television advertising to keep things top of mind as well as to create very, very strong brand awareness. Same thing Apple does. So top of mind, you're not necessarily going to buy a new car every year or an Apple product every month, but it's going to be on your top of mind for certain attributes, whether those attributes be a quality attribute, a cost attribute, or a novelty attribute. And what we're trying to ultimately do with our consumers and our marketing activities is drive that in terms of not from awareness, but ultimately to preference, as you all see with your choice of electronics, whether you are an Android fan or an Apple fan. But then there's this handoff which goes to the sales side of the business, which is where we have customers where we're trying to move them from their intent to purchase, and then ultimately become loyal customers and advocates. So this is very, very key. We call this the marketing funnel, and this is something that in actually my strategic marketing class was a very key piece that we use as a tool for one of our cases, but I use this with clients as well because it brings the whole spectrum in terms of the customer journey. Well, let's take a look in a little more detail relative to decision-making stages in the buying process within this funnel. So first and foremost is that you're going to have external stimuli. And that can be an advertisement, it could be a newspaper article, but you see or hear something that gets your attention. And what happens is that in essence is in these 5 stages as consumer buying processes is that you first recognize that you have a problem. Because that's usually when someone decides that they're going to, hey, I have to go out and maybe start thinking about buying. It could be, for instance, you see an ad on TV about the latest iPhone that can do something new. Or it could be your car keeps on breaking down and you're just constantly having to pay for repair bills. And then all of a sudden you see an ad about the latest and greatest Ford, which has tremendous performance as well as electronics. And then there's internal stimuli, which is you realize you want it or you need it. And so what happens is the second stage of consumer buying, which is now you go seeking information. You get on the web, and you then maybe go to the auto dealership and you start finding out some further information. For the wine business, it may be, oh, let's get one of those magazines and figure out what are the good wineries that are in Paso Robles. And then there's the decision and learning process. You're gathering information. and you start investigating. So in this case, you're starting to evaluate alternatives. So in the car buying example, it may be you start going out and visiting dealerships to start looking at different cars, talking to salespeople, maybe even doing a test drive. And this is very key, where you're considering that purchase process. And then you get down to the fourth piece, which is the purchase decision, which is where you choose which product or service. And ultimately, last but not least, is you consume where you actually buy it. Well, what's interesting thing about this funnel is this is very, very important if you're going to be a strategic marketer, to understand this funnel, and that as a marketer, the tools that you use, the tactics that you use, interplay in different parts, and they could interplay in all parts of this funnel, or they could interplay in terms of one or two parts, depending on what type of action you're trying to drive. And a savvy marketer at the end of the day is trying to move that customer from the awareness to the action as efficient as possible. And we'll get into some of those metrics a little later on. So let me give you an example of model consumer behavior in the buying process. So me and my wife and some friends were out at the farmer's market in Templeton. And we're walking around, have the dogs, we see all this great food, maybe sample a little bit. All of a sudden, we have been exposed to this external stimuli. We happened to see, we had sampled some strawberries and going, wow, that's good. But with that sampling, we came to recognize something. We're hungry. And that's an internal stimuli. It says, I think we want to go have something a little more substantial than just a few strawberries, maybe a few snacks. We actually want to go have a sit-down lunch. So then the next step is going to be, okay, let's seek out our alternatives. Let's do some research and see what's locally. So first, I say, well, what kind of food do I want to cook? Do I want to go out? What's available? What's local? What's the prices? What's variety? So as you know, many of us go to our phone and we check out what is there. We may also ask some of our friends who we're with over in Templeton, hey, what do you know that's local here that we could get? I feel like we need to get a picnic lunch and go out to a winery or something like that. And they may recommend a local deli in Templeton. One place that we tend to fashion is a place called Kitchenette. And so we check on our phone and we find out it has 4.5 stars, which is pretty good. And, oh, by the way, the people who own Kitchenette own Artisan, which we know is a good restaurant down in downtown Paso Robles. So as we learn, we evaluate our alternatives, and we hone in to a particular outcome. So now we're ready to go to Kitchenette and go purchase our lunch, or look at least their menu and decide. And that's that purchase decision where now we've made a choice of a place, and now we're going to look at the menu. And in the menu, we're going to say, hey, does that fit to what we want? Hey, yeah, it does. I like, they've got this burrito that's with short ribs. Oh, I love their quiche. Boom. We're there. We've made that. And they have some wonderful coffee. So let's get this. They have some craft brew, and we're set to go. We have bought lunch. We sit down. They have a nice little patio, and we're off to go. We're going to have lunch. And, oh, by the way, they allow us to take some things to go. So let's get it all packaged up, and off we go to a local winery, which now we have to go through the same process to determine what place has an environment that really would suit us in terms of an environment that would make for a nice picnic lunch. So anyway, this just gives you a sense of sort of thought process that is with the marketing funnel. But key to this is a marketer, okay? So the restaurants have to be making themselves available through advertising to be able to guide our decision process. And that's where social media comes into play, etc. So in inbound marketing, you have a number of things. You've probably heard of SEO, social media, email marketing, and offline, which could be traditional marketing. We're taking prospects, and what we're doing is with those prospects, if we've done SEO work, especially on our website, is we are putting in content like blogs, recipes, pictures of our latest food, And we have a content management system in our website as well. And it's not just slapping up a website, but putting together a website with keywords, with meta tags that think the way that your consumer thinks. Because what we're trying to do is get on that page one. In addition, as we think about the funnel, is we need to think about marketing automated tools, which we'll talk about later on in terms of which will help you with lead nurturing, management, and scoring. And then ultimately is driving that customer relationship management from the handoff of the marketing over to the sales side, where you will have a sales agent, which could be the customer counter person. It could be the waiter, waitress in it. It could be the car salesman that's there. But in many ways, these are the pieces in inbound marketing where we're moving the customer in that relationship through the funnel efficiently so that they become from a prospect to a paying customer. So let me get into a little more about the funnel from a physical as well as a digital standpoint. And this is a funnel that we use over in our Business 310 class. This comes from Steve Blank and Leans and called the Startup Owner's Manual. But basically, it's a two-sided funnel, and it really, one of the things I want you guys to take away is it's not just get. It's get, keep, and grow. And that we want to create viral feedback. So the first thing that we want to do is get customers, and we've already talked about in inbound marketing, earned and paid media. Paid media is traditional, like the SEO and the AdWords and the meta tags. The earned is the blogs that you do, the news paper articles, the write-ups and reviews that are free. Donald Trump, I hate to say it, has been a master in terms of getting free news that was worth billions of dollars through the traditional media. But most marketing organizations will get some earned, okay, and then a lot of paid media. And the savvy folks are looking at where can we get earned media. And what we're trying to do is move those customers into the funnel of being aware of what you offer. And then moving them from awareness to interest in terms of, okay, now, I've got a problem. I'm really interested and I need to investigate further, to consideration where they're trying out your product or good, they're testing, they're sampling, to ultimately they're into a relationship by purchasing your product. And ultimately what we're trying to do through that initial cycle is, especially when there's a repeat product, is create a viral loop where the customer experience is so satisfied that they want to come back. So tied to that is what we call the keep customers as well. And that is through a variety of tactics. And it can be loyalty programs that you've all been a part of, product updates, customer check-in calls, customer satisfaction surveys. And those that hold these customers. Wine clubs are classic for this in having events. And then there is the growing of the customers, where you have an offering and you might unbundle it. You may upsell to a next level. We see this with like websites like LinkedIn, where you have the basic level, but then you go to the premium level, you get greater services. You may cross-sell complementary products. You may be able to also, like if you have a wine tasting room, you may have cheese, for instance, or food to be able to have for your picnic. And then last but not least is the referrals from satisfied customers that can refer back and create this viral loop so that new customers come into the funnel. This funnel is not just a physical funnel, but it's also when we think about web and mobile as well. And it's a little bit more truncated on the get side, where we're looking at acquire and activate. And activate is really push through an activation. You'll see a call to action button on any good website will have that. Our goal is to get customers. But your social media plays a very critical role to driving those customers to the website. But also you can have traditional media as well as articles and blogs. And once you get those customers activated, you're looking at keeping those customers. And there are a variety of different types of programs that are there. And these are tactics to think about as you work with your clients, particularly those clients that are looking at launching campaigns and rebranding, etc. So outright program updates, loyalty programs, blogs, which I think are critical and should be updated every week, because It will improve your search ranking and for SEO, RSS, emails, which is with the automated email lists. And then you have contests and events, which are very important to keep your customer base engaged. And then, as you see on the right side, growing the customers, the same type of activities to make that customer extract as much value out of that customer in terms of that service, product, and purchase relationship. And how you put it all together is some key metrics. And we as marketers look at our activities that we're paying for, and what we look at is a concept that they use in the startup world, but it's anyone who's working digital knows it's the cost to activate a customer, which is the total paid cost to drive customers into the funnel and ultimately to convert those customers. So that is a very, very key metric. And if you have a very, very efficient funnel, then what you're seeing is your CTAC will go down significantly. And then the second key metric that you look at when you're looking at the effectiveness of your marketing activities is what we call funnel efficiency, which is the rate in which you can convert customers from funnel entries. And we use a term, and it's a term that it's actually a tool that Dow Chemical came up with, okay, and 3M had worked on as well, which is called the Purchase Driver Scorecard, which is where we are actually evaluating the number of individuals who start as prospects to where we are able to funnel them down and capture as many. So we may have 10 prospects up front. We get them down to 5 aware. We get them 3 interested, 2 consider, and 1 purchase. That gives you a 10-to-1 ratio. But if we can go from 5 consideration down to 1 purchase, that's a much more efficient effort. And so that's what you seek in terms of layering the different tactics tied in strategically to the decision points of your customers. And then last but not least is, what we're looking at is really this cost efficiency. And I know that investors look at this, and I know that many managers, this is a key metric if you have a digital program. And what is critical is when you have a digital program that you have a program that will draw tremendous amount of volume in, but it's also the program that you measure is the conversion rates, because what you're looking at is how do we get them to stick? And then last but not least is what we call the lifetime value of a customer, where basically it's all the revenue that's derived from the life of customer relationship. So especially when you have a customer that may be buying on multiple occasions your brand and have an ongoing relationship, the keep and grow is very critical. So we look at a customer where it may have cost $500 to get this customer, but if we're holding that customer for 5 years and they're making multiple purchases that are $5,000, then that's a lifetime value. And that could be from the initial purchase to some tack-ons there to maybe a subsequent purchase as well. So this is what we look at from a key metrics standpoint in terms of funnel. So anyway, hopefully this gives you some perspective. So as you start approaching and working with your clients on tactics, dial it back, bring back some strategy. You want to be known as a strategist rather than a tactician. Look forward to talking to you further about this in class, and have a great Tuesday.